Now, on to our second category of sun-ruled herbs, warmth. Well, you might think warmth, what's the big deal? Well, as I said earlier, warmth, very important because warmth is a vital sign, right? It's one thing that differentiates a living body from a dead body, right? A living body is warm, a dead body's cold. And that is because the solar force, the spirit, has left the body, and with it departs that heat. So heat is an expression of life. Heat is an expression of vitality. And of course, we don't want too much of it, right? Because too much heat, like too much of anything, can be damaging, but we want warmth. And one of my favorite classic sun-ruled herbs here is Angelica, archangelica. This would be our garden variety and European Angelica. Like to make sure to clarify that because there are lots of Angelicas out there, right? There's, I think, like 3 or 4 that I know of, probably more Angelicas used in Chinese medicine. There's wild Angelicas. I think there's 3 different species of Angelica, probably more, that grow around me living here in the Pacific Northwest. We've got like the Angelica arguta that likes to grow up in the Cascades. We've got a coastal variety, the Angelica hendersonii, Henderson's Angelica. And they're all a little bit different. But here I'm speaking more to your classic European garden variety Angelica, archangelica, which really has that quite pleasant, slightly bitter, aromatic property that tastes very reminiscent of fennel. Has a very fennel-y flavor, very pleasant. Angelica, nice, warming bitter, an aromatic bitter that actually has a little bit of a moistening property to it as well. It's not quite as dry as many of our other warming herbs, which is one of the reasons why I like it. Now, the way I understand the property of Angelica is that when you take it, the property kind of works in stages. So I see it begins here in the solar plexus, right? Not the nerve solar plexus, but just this general area. You take it, you feel it warm the core, warm the gut. So it brings warmth and vitality here to the digestive system. So it's a very good digestive stimulant as a bitter, as an aromatic carminative, very useful for the digestive system, but it builds that warmth there. And from there, that warmth, almost like you're building a fire in the core, and then that heat starts to radiate outwards from there, out through the rest of the body, where it has a stimulant property. Now, when I say stimulant, I don't want you to think about coffee kind of stimulant. I want you to think of circulatory stimulant. It's bringing warmth and circulation and blood throughout the system. So it warms blood out to the hands and to the feet. It brings blood up into the head. I personally I haven't heard a lot of herbalists talk about Angelica this way. To me, I think of it as a bit of a nootropic agent in that it can bring a bit of blood up to the head and kind of help cognitive function. And I'm referring more to, like, we have prepared a spagyric essence of Angelica, so it's very volatile, very aromatic. And boy, when I've taken that, it's like bing, like I really feel mentally clear, focused, the senses feel kind of opened up. But it's moving that blood, warming the periphery. We see it having an impact on the respiratory system as a stimulant expectorant. So the volatile oils really open up the lungs, open up the breathing, can be used quite nicely in cough formulas, warms the uterus, and can really aid with some menstrual difficulties. That has a bit of an antispasmodic effect, so kind of relax and warm cold uterus, maybe pour blood flow to the uterus, amenorrhea, or just stagnant, clotty kind of menses. So it's bringing, again, like to me, the theme of Angelica is that it's bringing warmth and vitality, right? It's bringing that warmth and blood throughout the system. It does it to the GI, it does it to the uterus, it does it to the lungs. It's bringing that blood throughout the system, and as such, distributing warmth and distributing vitality. I absolutely love Angelica. And in a lot of ways too, even though we don't think of The sun as ruling the lungs, obviously that's Gemini and Mercury. It doesn't rule the uterus. That's more the moon and Cancer. It doesn't rule the digestive system, right? It's like the moon rules the stomach, and Virgo rules the small intestine, and Scorpio rules the colon, and right. So it's like the sun doesn't rule any of those systems, but the sun, in the same way that the light of the sun at the center of our solar system is shining its light, and as the earth turns, the sun touches every part of the earth, so too is it in our body. So that the warmth and the vitality of the heart and the center is shining outward, is radiating outwards and touching every part of the body. So in a lot of ways, the sun really impacts the whole person, because the circulation of blood is universal throughout the body. And Angelica generally helps to stimulate that, and through that bring that warmth and vitality. So very good for cold, weak, deficient folks. People with poor digestion is one way that I really like to use Angelica. They don't, and if you think of this, if you don't digest and absorb the nutrients from your food, how's that going to affect your vitality? It's pretty hard to be vital if you can't really absorb the nutrition from your food very well. If you're all backed up in there, Angelica is very nice to get all those digestive secretions going, stimulating HCl, pancreatic enzymes. It's going to be it's bitter, so it's going to get the bile moving a bit. It's going to bring, get all the secretions going. We might call it a prokinetic, meaning that it's helping with the downward bearing energy of the digestion, which is the direction you want it to move. So sometimes for those upward moving things in the GI, Angelica can be very useful for, especially things like SIBO, where you're getting colonic bacteria going up into the small intestine. I really like Angelica there to kind of help reestablish that downward bearing quality. And in that way, I wouldn't call it laxative per se. It's not going to make you like go run to the toilet in an emergency state, like you get with some Senna or Cascara, but it can be very useful for people with poor, slow, sluggish transit time and things like that. But I really love Angelica for the digestive system. I still use fennel a lot, but in a lot of instances where I would use fennel, I actually reach for Angelica these days quite a bit more, and I really love this remedy a lot. So really great example of the warmth aspect of a solar plant.